so we've got about half an hour for some questions. Unfortunately, Dr. Cheng and Dr. Wu had to step out, so we'll have to catch them on the next seminar, which we'll be having sometime soon. But we do have a good cast of people here. We have a good sense of how this project can be laid out, what it will be required to develop and build. So if people want to line up and take some questions, feel free to do so. Yeah, come on up.
Going back to the educational system, we have to get these people out of education at the top. They've been dumbing down these schools. They're teaching nothing in the schools. We don't have books for all the students. I've asked kids, well, where's the homework? Well, we can't get the books home. Our educational system has deliberately been sabotaged, like many things. And they say down to the student, well, he's not capable of doing anything. You put something before him and make him capable. That's an education.
I found in areas where I was in a neighborhood one time doing a study when I was in private practice. And the father came up to the son, how come you don't get a job like this? And he says, well, look what he's doing. He's doing all this study out here as an engineer. And his father looked at his son and amazed because the son wasn't going to school at all. But he had the knowledge, but he didn't have the motivation. And a lot of times we have to get the motivation going a little bit better.
Yeah.
And the participatory. I understand what you're saying. And and I believe what we're seeing by actively mentoring and training, by train the trainer type of attitude of getting the graduates that are getting ready to move on, is to participate at a mentoring program within the high schools. And the students can relate to the students now, to the graduating students, rather than a person with gray hair.
Yeah, I have a general question that has to do with a little bit of the transportation infrastructure and developmental pathways that you're going to go, because I understand that we have conventional rail, we have high-speed rail, which uses electrical power, and then you have maglev, but you can even improve on maglev by putting in a tunnel and taking out the air and making it low pressure too, and doing that. However, all three systems, I'm not sure how you would coordinate all of them, because they all have different physical requirements and they would look very different from each other. So,
one of the individuals that was involved with rail actually identified parallel tracks, because in some areas there's only single tracks, and to create a parallel track system to start, and then to introduce the other systems nearby through the corridors. Regards to the powering of systems, the system itself, the overall system itself, because there will be ample amount of power that will be used to power new cities, and the overflow of that can come into the rail also. And so there will be plenty of power for that, they've predicted.
Okay. That was just the other thing is in hooking up the power up to the general grid, are you actually going to be building basically new parts of the grid, and are you going to have them more modular, or are you going to have them more totally connected kind of?
The comments were talking about modular.
Okay.
More modular segments.
All right.
Okay.
My name is Julie. The question is Mr. Bowles. I hope that's I'm pronouncing your name correctly. My first question is when do you think that the project will be completed, and when do you think we can start the project?
Well, the start's determined by the political side of the equation. So, we could start as soon as we had the resources available. So that could be virtually any time. that occurred, the cycle time or the duration would be determined by the use of this process over here. We'd have to go in and start to really analyze all of those 350 plus projects and determine what their individual times would be. Now, fast track is a compressed method of doing that, and there's two ways to do that. You layer up the processes, so you have as many processes occurring as you can, and you concentrate labor. It's like a house. It can take 3 months or 6 months to build a house, or you can build a house in a week. We've seen that done on television. And I've physically seen it done. It's doable, but it's because you concentrate labor. There's X amount of hours required. There are certain things that you can't force. Well, you can. You can force concrete to dry quicker. There are ways to do that. So, roundabout, we don't know for sure exactly what I've heard. I suspect, given the ability of the American people to marshal up a war and build thousands of planes in the space of a few years, that it might not be nearly as long a time as what's predicted. It might be able to do the whole thing in 10 years. We can do amazing amounts of things if we have the circumstances.
Okay, my next question, if you possibly answer it, is do you think that we'll have to actually create, I don't know how to say it, what the right way to say it is, but will we have to put down close homes and stuff, and put down homes and create an area for
Relocate people?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
We will.
I think there would be people relocated. Dr. Chang talked about that in China, where they relocated 1.2 million, was it? And that, I think that cost fell within the 30 billion it was to build the dam. So, what's the next question? Yes, yes,
no,
needs to be
that's all.
Were you asking a question about the development of cities to build the project? Or are you talking about the relocation of people?
Relocation of people, will we have to close homes and create area for us to
out of the reservoir sites,
right.
out of the areas where the physical construction would be.
Okay.
I think you'd have to do that. The good news is that in those collection areas, the population is relatively sparse. If you look at the Rocky Mountain, in the Rocky Mountain Trench, for example, which is the largest component, the largest reservoir, there's very few people that live in that area. There are only about three villages up through there that are. I mean, we're not talking. What we're saying is we're not talking about in that particular case. There's just a lot of people who are going to have to. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you for your.
Hello, my name is Freddie, and I'm a member of the LaRouche Political Action Committee. I understand that you guys have had the time to take a look at the project and the different aspects as you guys have presented today. And I'm just curious, have you guys began to reach out to other individuals to start to put together a feasibility study for the project itself? Then as far as I see, aside from NAWAPA, there doesn't seem to be a national project on this scale. I know there's some kind of smaller projects that have been discussed in different parts of California, but something like this seems to me that anybody in the field that you guys are in would be more than excited to start to jump on it. So just curious, as you guys have put in some time to look at the project, and I want to know if you guys have actually started contact some people that you know that could start to get this thing moving. I mean, in terms of the political thing, I think that's always going to be an issue, especially with the kind of president that we have today. But I just want to know because you guys seem excited, just to see if you guys are already taking that next step and starting to put the paperwork together and whatever it is.
Well, on my part, on Thursday, I presented the project, and I was at a presentation for my program, and we got to talking about various things that are going on, and I was telling them about this project as opportunities, and they were excited about it. But these were CEOs and presidents of firms who I was talking to, and there was actually 8 of them there that represented a group of 100 firms, and hopefully they'll share that message going forward. On a side note, in the Fresno area, I've talked to several people that are in the industry that have international experience that could be involved with these university type cities, these new city concepts, and to share that with them, and they are also excited about it. And at the moment, nothing's been triggered to jump forward. There's talk going on, so there's talk within the individuals that I have communicated with.
In answer to your question for me, I want you to know that your objective is good, but that was not in my job description. I got invited in, and I tried to contribute to the extent that they needed some nuclear expert to basically to guide them. Okay, the nuclear technology is complex, and it won't be me. I'm just here to tell them that the technology and the concepts are available. Somebody that is going to shepherd this through the licensing process, and make the determination of whether we want to go small nuclear power plants that can be almost trucked in, but in that process, you've got an operating expense. Or do you want a 1,000 megawatt electrical plant where you have about the same type of operators that are required to operate this 24/7, but you better prepare to build large transmission lines to it. Okay, these are the sort of things that I want to bring to the table. I want to tell them, in today's world, don't think about fusion. I want to tell them that water reactors are available today. There are approximately 300 to 400 of them operating in the world. Fast breeder reactors, if you're worried about the longevity of the uranium, fast breeder reactors, there are approximately 6 or 7 demonstration plants. And a demonstration plant is one, we know the physics of it, we know the concepts, but you need to develop the materials and the fabrication and the industry to give you the tight specifications required on nuclear power plants and the material specification, the tight dimensions of the machine. Okay, that is my contribution. Just so I probably am not going to get on the phone and call somebody tomorrow. I want to help, but it needs to be on my terms.
I can tell you that the LPAC people are doing an excellent job of contacting experts around the country. I think if we watch, I don't know if you watch the website at all, but I'd encourage you to get on that website, and there are interviews. Oh, he knows about the website. He was a ringer, wasn't he? I can tell you what our next step will probably be, and we were having a discussion on the way over here, is to communicate with Senator McCain, who would probably have a fair bit if we could get him on board. And he's already been involved and had put forward a bill to restore the Glass-Steagall law, the McCain-Cantwell bill, and made a fair bit of progress, I think. Is that right, Phil? So he's our representative in Arizona, and I don't see any good reason why he wouldn't be interested in supporting that program. As far as feasibility studies, there's quite a bit of information on NAWAPA as far as its feasibility. I don't know if that's exactly what you meant, but it's been determined to be physically feasible. And certainly we're evolving fairly rapidly, I would say. I think it's starting to really catch on, and I have personally talked to people, yes, and they're excited about it. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is John Highlander. I was going to offer an analogy in baseball. Since we're at a war here, but baseball is the American sport, and let's talk about imaginary baseball. We're just in the bullpen right now. And yesterday I heard at Linder Furniture, a big warehouse furniture place in Torrance. My friend was over there buying some furniture, so I was talking to the big honcho over there. And he said that the furniture up until the first of the year will be from China. After the first, and I can't verify this, but he said it'll be made in this country. So I've got to verify that. Yesterday he told me. So I said, how is it supposed to be made in this country? We don't have anybody to make it. We don't have any capability. And of course, we're going back to the start of this country. The country was founded a lot by cabinet makers or furniture makers, like Abraham Lincoln's father was a furniture maker, Thomas Lincoln. So was William Marcy Tweed in New York. He was a beautiful furniture maker, but of course he had enemies. Anyway, if I can verify this, if we can get maybe the bullpen going with some people learning how to make furniture, then maybe we can get some kind of training going in one category and then work on other categories.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, I made a comment in regards to the seaways, and then, for example, there's high schools in the Southern California market. I was reading the paper last week, and they've been very successful in putting training for maritime, for dealing with cargo area, and because their population of their workforce is declining. And now they're introducing new people that would not be doing this type of work. And they're having very successful careers right now. And they've been in the careers for 6-7 years. And so we're starting to see changes in that, seeing niche areas. We need, in our area, with regards to overall construction, we're seeing people that are moving away from the industry because it's not a consistent industry because of the economy right now. And when we find that workforce, and we have to revitalize that workforce, either move them into a different category or move them to a different area or discipline, then we will be successful again. We just have to rekindle the opportunities for them.
I want to touch on that real quick too, because I think that I have to make a clear distinction. There was an LPAC movie, LPAC film made that made this distinction between a boutique operation of production, which is what we've been doing with steel production and other areas of manufacturing in the United States. That's what England was doing up until World War II. And they had no capability of mobilizing a kind of war effort to defeat and defend their country against a Nazi attack. So this idea of going to smaller projects, even smaller infrastructure projects, I think has a similar fallacy of any type of boutique. If we try to take baby steps at this point, we'll lose the war in the sense of a mobilization. So I think the idea is that if you want to get people back into an industry, back into a production, even to get them interested into education, the way Lloyd's discussing these kinds of questions, you have to have a mission for the nation. It has to be a major overhaul that shapes the space as a whole for economic activity. Because we're facing a complete collapse of the world system, a collapse of civilization. It's not a question of getting jobs or getting a few people to take education more seriously. Those things are necessary and vital. But the mission at hand is of a far greater, it's a war mobilization now to defend the country. And I think we have to keep it in that context. I think that's important that we do, because the conversation here has to reflect that, most importantly. So, the question.
Yeah, I'm in the construction trades. Our union hall anticipated a bunch of work. We had a 20-week intensive welding program consisting of 1,000 hours of in-hall training in a welding booth. They're still only halfway trained. They can weld a bead, but they can't fit up a 10-foot diameter pipe 100 feet long in a muddy ditch. So you can only learn so much in the laboratory setting, but we ran a bunch of people through the training. The work we had anticipated dissipated, and all these people drifted off. If we can't employ them, we can't get them fully trained in the field, and we can't retain them in the field. And now they're saying, we're going to have a bunch of work. We need you to magically come up with 6,000 welders. Okay, well, if you can't employ people, you can't get them properly trained and experienced, and you can't retain them.
That's the catch-22 that we're in right now. And dealing with that, I believe every industry is seeing that same problem and trying to show that you have depth of experience. And they have to recognize the individuals that are supposedly has the money to trigger the project have to recognize that those skill sets are going to be ongoing throughout the project and allow them to develop the people that are moving into the project through apprentice programs, like you're saying.
Joe Elkins, the Roosh PAC organizer. I had a question that I don't know who to ask actually, but it's regarding the different water districts and water authorities that we have nationwide. I think this project would end up, overlapping with probably hundreds of different local water agencies, if not thousands, in the area in which it covers. And I know the construction of the project would be financed through probably a national capital budget, almost solely from the United States. And but from that point on, then you have the distribution of the water, which usually happens through the sale of water. And I would just like to know what this would be a very complex system of selling water or distributing water through these different agencies around the country. How much water is each area given? There's numbers given in the video tour of how much water roughly would be in the different areas, but I wonder how the specifics of that break down and how it's handled. I know one example is the Tennessee Valley Authority, but it's relatively a smaller area, and so I don't know who would be able to take that up. That's my question.
I can speak to a part. You're exactly right. Water rights authorities, etc., they can be very complex. However, I could say for Arizona and the Central Arizona project, which I'm fairly familiar with, we just had a document, I think I sent it over to you guys, are seeking, they've basically been trying to figure out how they will get water. Then they really, bottom line, have come up with a program to buy brackish water from farmers on the western border of Arizona and try to pump it out of the ground and get it into the system. And that amount was a fairly nominal amount, 300,000 acre feet over 10 years. So I'm just considering that in many cases they may very well welcome a new source of water, and what you're talking about is the concern for water, or the struggle to get water, or the struggle over water rights. It might be something different than if there was a fresh new supply of water to come into the system. You wouldn't have all that complexity per se. It would be figuring out how are we going to divvy up the water and how are we going to get it into our system. So that's just kind of a broad stroke guess.
I would just offer to you also that the National Water Resource Association is an association of the 17 western states, okay? And interestingly enough, being on that board for many, many years, the
every state in the West has an office. Idaho Department of Water is ours. Oregon has one, Washington has one, the whole thing. And most waters that come into the state are considered state waters. That's one of the few divisions that has ever occurred between the states and the U.S. government. Obama would love to have that, right, that it's all federal water. But the states have kept that ruling intact, and so the negotiation is probably going to be with the states, and then their, in turn, negotiation with the water user. I can just tell you from example, if the NAWAPA process had been down in Southern California before San Diego Gas Electric decided to line all the canals on the Imperial Irrigation District, they would have loved it. I mean, they paid a premium for that water. And it's just the beginning because California needs to reduce their water usage by, I believe, around 700,000 acre feet per year to meet the Supreme Court compact. So anyway, I think there's a mechanism to distribute the water. We just got to probably work within the states to do it with their departments.
I would take one more question.
I was wondering if you guys have given this thought, because to produce and manufacturing process takes a lot of water in and of itself. And I've heard that given the peak of manufacturing in the United States, I guess the 50s and 60s, we were using a certain N amount of water. Well, today we consume that same amount of water, but yet we don't have a manufacturing-based economy. We have the economy we have today. We have more houses and people consuming water, so it's being consumed in a different way. So, in order to jumpstart the production of NAWAPA, have you guys given any thought of where we're going to get these new water resources to be funneled into the manufacturing and productive process that's going to produce what we need for NAWAPA? Where do those water resources come from?
Well, I think the overall system itself, you may have to jumpstart it from foreign materials at first. If there's not enough domestic materials, you may have to negotiate on a foreign material product that meets the criteria for the job. And then as areas are being developed, portable plants will be coming in, distribution will be coming at that point, and then you start seeing development going. And that's what we're saying earlier, that you can't turn the switch on at the end of the project and expect everything to work at once. You're going to see it broken down as it goes through the project over its time. And as the concentration of the collection area and then redistribution comes into play, you will see development of other industries along those lines there.
I think it's also a good point to make that that's the reason why we have to have the reindustrialization of water-rich areas in the Midwest and the East Coast, the Boston areas, Pennsylvania, the Michigan, Ohio, River Valley areas. So that's almost foreign to California. So if are there any other there's other questions? I want to raise. Well, let me raise one thing. Actually, I want to ask a question. And then you can maybe ask your question after the session today. I want to give Phil some time. But maybe you guys can test real quick, because I think all of you have some experience. Give us a sense of what in a somewhat quick way, because we do have a limited time. But I think it's important to give a sense of your participation, your involvement, and excitement. One, why you got into this project. Give a sense of it, what provoked you, and just where you see with the next step forward, what we need to do next to make it happen. So. I don't know if somebody wants to volunteer to go first on that.
I'll go first. I'm a civil engineer and I love to build. And this is a project that's extremely exciting. You don't get, they're not on your desk all the time like this. When I was approached regards to this concept, they told me there was other projects around the world that are very similar, not of this magnitude. And I'm thinking, how can you change life as we see it now? There's an opportunity right now to change life to the positive. And I see if we can participate in a project like this, we can sit back in the end and look at it how we have changed to the good, regards to life as we see it.
Mike, let me I'll express this a little bit different than what I expressed to the young gentleman who asked if I advertised this. I think the way I looked at this is that I read the documents and I thought, my God, what a Herculean effort. I have never, seen anything quite that significant. I probably am a little bit unique and maybe being still somewhat active and up to date on my technology and the like. And it was kind of almost before you showed up at my house one night. My wife said, maybe it's payback time. And I would say that's my contribution. I want to do what I can on it. And where's it going to go? When I get to looking at what is required in today's world with the Environmental Protection Agency, the ESA, the nuclear situation, the nuclear can be upgraded significantly in time. But as Mike mentioned to you, one of the real difficulties in the nuclear program is these 100 plants that I talked to you about that are operating in this country. I'm telling you, they must represent 99 different designs. We have hardly ever built 2 identical nuclear power plants in this country. And the reason why is they've just been upgraded to take advantage of the new technology. But as soon as you do that, then you've got the entire licensing process to go through again with maximum credible accidents and the environmental impact statement. So it has taken years. If we could get this down standardized, and which I think we will, and the licensing speeded up, this would no longer be a 7-year process to build a nuclear power plant or get the licensing for it. So things would speed up. This is the sort of guidance I want to try and provide to the NAWAPA people. There needs to be somebody on the front line involved with the current nuclear reactor vendors. We're not going to do this. I mean, the way this is going to occur is you're going to hire a General Electric, a Westinghouse, a Combustion Engineering, a Babcock and Wilcox. These people are the ones who have been living with this technology and they have all of this experience. They are the ones that are going to, in fact, help you select the right specific design for your environment. So these are the sorts of things that I can contribute on. And where you go is you've got to get an adequate funding base so that you can get the necessary consultants to update the 1964 Parsons report. It just has to be brought current with all of today's new technology and needs and environmental things. The environmental thing just, if I was in the position of doing this, it just spooks me as to how you can get all of the permits and do the things that you want to do, okay? And if you can't, we need to begin to go very, very quickly back and see what is the alternative. How do we get around it? And that needs to be started first so that when you do get into the in-depth study on this, what you're doing is a study on something that you know is doable and practicable and you can accomplish it. My 2 bits.
You know, I just really don't like the new Dark Age plan very much. It doesn't appeal to me. I became involved when I got caught in the collapse. I decided I needed to discover the problem. I needed to get down to the bottom of the problem, and I started to study the LaRouche materials and get a good sense of the American political system of economy and what's really required to build platforms for economy to advance on. And so, to me, it's all fallen into place to the point where I've been willing to do more. And I guess again, and I'd like to get a job. That'd be helpful. And I'm a builder, and that's what we do. We build stuff, So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Maybe from the phrase, I was just thinking, there's the Aborigines apparently in Australia, they have this creation myth of the world, which is that they sang the world into existence. And it's connected to other things about how they get around the continent using these, singing these songs. But without taking that too far, I mean, it does seem there's a quality to that here where, we're going to sing this into existence in the sense that, number one, this conference is a result. I mean, this has never happened before. Certainly not in this way. This is the result of a few months of organizing, and something peculiar happened, which is that, again, here you've got this design for a project which has been there. It's been, somewhere on the shelf and so forth for years. The way that you move it, though, you move it as an idea, and I think that's what we've got. That's what we've done, and that's what LaRouche has outlined, is the way that you move this as an idea is that recognize that the bringing it into existence, to actually manifest it, is going to be, it's going to require everything that was kind of touched on today. It's going to require an actual paradigm shift in the sense that, our movement is based on a certain faith that ideas have real power in the universe. And I think that faith is being well rewarded now, and we're sort of at the beginning phases in a process of seeing this thing through. But this is important, what's happening today here, what's happening in Seattle or in the Tri-Cities region at the same time. And we're in a period now after the election where there's a huge amount of uncertainty and demoralization. And it's even more than before. This is kind of as people alluded to, this is the only thing around. But for that to have any kind of power, it has to be your thing. It has to be something that people actually take into themselves. And that, that's sort of the proof of whether or not it is kind of a self-fulfilling thing. If the pessimism is very self-fulfilling. We've seen that. If people don't believe that anything can be done, and they tend to be able to find that very easily in the world around them because they haven't done anything. And then they see the state of the world around them. So I think we just have to have the opposite approach, that optimism is also self-fulfilling. And now we should have a sense after today of the feasibility, no question. So, and we have to sing to train our voices to make this happen.
All right, so let's show some appreciation for our panelists and guests today.